My name is Laura Bow, and I want to be a great detective just like my dad. Let me tell you about a time recently when I think I was a pretty good detective. My friend Lillian invited me out to this swamp in the middle of Louisiana to see her family for the weekend. After dinner, which was really tense, I decided that something was probably wrong, so I followed my detective senses and looked around to see what it could be. First, I saw her old uncle talking to the maid in his room. She said she got some lipstick on him, but I don't see how that's possible if she was just cleaning. I'm sure it wasn't important anyway, so I decided to head downstairs. I had been training so I could walk as fast as I possibly could. I think that's important because my dad says a good detective is always the first at the scene of a crime. I hadn't really seen any crimes recently, but I was pretty sure that there would be one somewhere around here. It was sure spooky enough. I ran into Lillian's two glamorous cousins talking, and I was sure whatever they sang wasn't very interesting, so I decided to leave them be. And in the next room, just more conversations. I kind of wanted something else to happen, so I decided to take a quick little tour of the estate. Working out never hurts, so I ran some laps around the mansion, and by the time I came back, the old lady had left. That left just the old lawyer to smoke alone in the parlor. I decided to go see where the old lady could be. Something very exciting was going to happen soon. My detective senses could sense it. But it was just her sleeping in her room. I heard that clock go off again. It sure seems like it rings a lot. Anyway, back out in the hallway, I saw something on the ground, but it looked kind of gross, so I didn't really want to touch it. My detective senses were really going off, so I decided to take another tour of the downstairs to make sure I hadn't missed anybody. I started to hear my dad's voice in the back of my head, but he is just prattling on like always. He always wants to butt in and pretend like he's the better detective instead of me. Dad, I don't need your advice. I'm a good detective myself. I could tell by the way that chair was positioned that somebody had been in here before too long, so I decided to investigate and see where they had gone. This room especially piqued my curiosity. I could tell that with all these weapons it wasn't a very safe room. I'd have to make a note of it in my detective journal. It was just two old men talking outside. Doesn't anything exciting ever happen around here? I didn't really hear much of what they were saying, but it sounded like they wanted to be left alone. Well, the polite thing when people want to be left alone is to leave them alone, so I decided not to follow them back inside. But what should I do? Well, I hadn't really gone around this side of the mansion yet, so I decided to see what there was. There was a weird statue, and it looked like a garden in the back. Maybe that'll be important later, I thought. I saw that creepy English butler come out and feed the dog. Who knows where he was going? Maybe to do some crimes. At first I thought I should go see where he was going, but then I thought that's just what he would want me to do. Maybe I should see where he came from. And it turned out that paid off, because I found two people that I hadn't seen yet. My best friend Lillian and her friend Celie the cook. They were talking about something or other, and I didn't really listen too much. I decided to head back into the mansion, and came across those two boring old men talking again. It's like, don't they ever stop talking? Not as far as I can see. They seemed to get real cranky that I was around. I thought I saw somebody outside the window, but I'm sure that was just, I'm not sure who it was. Maybe I'll investigate that later. I headed back in and saw Gloria smoking. That made me want to exercise, because smoking is real bad. I ran a few laps around the mansion, and by the time I got back, she was playing pool with that lawyer guy. That made me hear the clock chime again, which reminded me that I really needed to get to detecting. I mean, running's good and everything, but I'm on a mission here tonight. Well, it looks like the guy that was talking to that boring old lawyer, Mr. Doctor, was reading alone by himself. That's probably not important. I thought I saw the clock tilted to one side when I went back out, but that was probably just my imagination. I was rushing around real fast to try to get everywhere. That pool game sure didn't take too long. I bet that lady won. She looks like she's really good at everything. Well, I'd done enough downstairs, so I decided to go back up and see if there was anything I had missed upstairs. You never know in a big mansion like this what might be going on. Just two boring guys talking again. I really wish that they would leave off. It's like do some crimes or something. I don't even know. Well, that's probably enough for inside for right now. I hadn't been out this way before, and it was kind of a nice view of the mansion. Looking at all that lightning in the distance made me think about scary things, and I was sure that somewhere out there crimes were happening. I thought, if I was a crime, where would I be happening? Oh, maybe that building there in the distance. I decided to knock and see if I could find out anything. To my surprise, I heard my friend in there. She seemed to be doing something or other, but it was just Lillian, who I know real well. I know she wouldn't do any crime, so I decided to just kind of leave her alone. Well, that was pretty boring and kind of disappointing, honestly. I got stuck on a hedge for a little bit, but then decided I might as well go back inside. I was feeling a little disappointed by this point in time. Not only had I failed to find any crimes, all I'd seen were boring people talking and my friend in the dollhouse. You know, I hadn't been up here yet. Maybe there were crimes up here. Maybe my first instinct to check the house was right. Oh, what's going on in here? Oh, it's just that pretty maid lady who's reading or sewing or something like that. I was starting to get real frustrated, so I took a couple laps around the mansion just to cool myself off. And then my detective senses told me I needed to check upstairs. I went back in, and sure enough, there was the crime that I had been thinking of. That sexy-looking man decided he was going to kiss the maid, and she didn't want him to. I wasn't really sure about what the law was, but I was pretty sure that was some kind of crime. One crime noted, I thought. I wrote it down in my detective's notebook. I was going to have to talk to somebody about this later. Well, feeling full of pride and vigor, I decided to check the downstairs area again. Surely something had changed, and who knew who else had committed a crime by this point in time? Whoever they were, I was going to catch them. Well, nothing was really happening in the hallway, so I just decided to head outside. You know, I hadn't been over this way before. It's hard to explore everywhere when you're at a new place, but Dad said that you never know when a crime is going to take place, so I decided to check everywhere. I saw that boring old lawyer guy wandering around. I don't know what he's up to. There was that cook rocking. I saw some chickens and decided to make a note of that. You never know when somebody might decide to steal chickens. They're pretty valuable, I think. There was somebody else out for a walk. That man who had kissed that maid. He knew what he had done, and he was probably trying to get away from me, but he couldn't really get away from me. I forgot how to walk upstairs for a little bit and got stuck on them, but managed to make my way back into the dangerous room. Oh, it was just my friend Lillian. She was probably looking at his weapons wanting something or other, but it wasn't interesting enough for me to check it out. I was starting to get a little bored again. I realized that the last time I had gotten bored, all I needed to do was run a few laps, and something really exciting happened. And I decided to get back to my starting place, which was up here in this little weird garden that I found. I ran a couple laps around the mansion, and sure enough, I saw some drunk old lady wandering around. My dad said I should never ever get drunk, so I'm pretty sure it's at least some kind of a crime to be drunk. I decided to write it down with a question mark in my notebook, because sometimes his friends would come over and they would get a little drunk and he didn't seem to get mad at them. It's maybe a crime. That was enough to keep me cheered up though, so I decided to go back in and get stuck on a doorway. And when I went into the drinking area, there was that lawyer man. I wonder what he had been up to. One of his eyes kind of looked a little black and puffy, but I wasn't really sure what the deal was with that. I headed back upstairs just to see what I could see. I thought maybe something would be happening in his room, but no, nothing was really going on in there. You know, I hadn't been to see that colonel in a very long time. I wondered what he was doing. Well, it turned out he was talking to Lillian. That's nice. She came up here mostly to see him. They get along real well, you know. She seemed to be upset about something, so I thought I might as well give them some privacy. I had a moment where I wasn't sure what to do, but I quickly gathered my resolve. I usually find that when I'm stuck, It helps to change venues. That's something else that my dad said. Sometimes you have to look at a problem from a new direction. So I decided to head back downstairs. You know, I had seen that lawyer man who'd been wandering outside, but I didn't see the man who tried to kiss the lady. Oh, there he was. He was eating some pie. I made a note of the pie in my detective journal. Not because pie is a crime or anything, but because I like it. That lady who cooks makes really good pie. Everybody says it's the best. Anyway, I decided to head back upstairs. I thought Lillian might want some of that pie. If I remember, she was in there talking to the colonel just a second ago. But no, they both seemed to be gone. His wheelchair was there, and that seemed strange to me for some reason I couldn't really put my finger on. I thought maybe she might be in our room, and sure enough she was there, but she was doing something in her suitcase. I decided again that was probably none of my business and just let her be. Well, I wasn't really hungry for pie anymore, because I had the scent of mystery. I spent a little bit of time just wandering around deciding what to do, and then I thought, oh, maybe I'll go in and see what that lawyer's doing. He was writing something boring in his books. He's a lawyer, so I'm sure it was a document or a court case or something like that. Who knows what they write? Anyway, I headed back downstairs to see if there was any more crimes I could find. You know, one place that I haven't looked for kind of a while is outside. I've been inside for the last little bit, so I thought it might be good to stretch my legs. I wasn't exactly running laps, but before long I ran into that kisser petting the dog. I like dogs, so it was hard for me to understand how somebody who was a criminal could also like them, but I guess everybody is really complicated. You know, they have some good and some bad about them. I went inside to think about that for a little bit, but then gathered myself and went back out. I thought something that might be important to do is go see that cook, that chef. I'd been thinking about the pie again and was starting to get a little hungry from all those laps. I knocked on her door, but she didn't seem too friendly. She screamed something about evil in the air and slammed the door right in my face. Well, that was about enough of that. I wrote down "slam door in my face" in really small print in my detective journal. I know that slamming a door isn't exactly a crime, but it seems like something that would commonly happen around the scene of a crime. Well, that man was done petting that dog and was back to being just a regular bad guy. I probably could have followed him, but I'd run around this island quite enough by now. I decided to check back in that dollhouse. Maybe I could see what my friend was doing in there before. Oh no, she was back in there again. Well, that's boring. I had to go see what was going on in the mansion now, I guess. Actually, no. Why don't I get stuck on the swing, and then why don't I go up and see what's happening in this building? I haven't been in there yet. Oh, it's that cook lady. Well, she's just sitting, but doesn't really seem to be doing anything. Who knows what she's up to? Maybe she's preparing a meal for later. Maybe it's going to be a pie. I would love it if it was a pie. I hear that she makes the best ones. Anyway, that's about enough for now outside. What to do? What to do? Well, I had a couple options open to me. I thought I'd go see what was happening I thought I would go see what was happening upstairs. That seemed to be the place where a lot of things had happened before. In fact, as far upstairs as I could get was where I found my biggest crime happening. I wonder where that lawyer was. Oh, this definitely looked like some kind of crime. He had knocked over his chair and he had spilled jam or something all over the rug. I decided to look in his book and see if he had left me any clues. I didn't really read it too much though because, you know, I'm kind of on a busy schedule. But now I wrote "spilling jam" in my detective journal. That's like 5 crimes already. I went in to check on my friend Lillian, who might have been back from the dollhouse, but the kisser was in my room. Well, that was almost the end of my weekend being the best detective ever.